Welcome, everyone. This is Milka. My name is Milka Millians, and I am your host for CARE Coaches Against Racism and Exclusion. And our speaker series for the past few weeks is Your Voice Matters. And this is our last session. And we, we're, we're very excited to have a very compelling duo of Milka Ezde and Richard Dyer. They will be joining us to speak about them working together these last few years and talking about values and how important values are to your leadership approach and style. So I want to thank you all again for joining us, and I am going to bring them on, and afterward I will basically close out the session. So let's bring on Milka and Richard.
Hello. I am so excited to be here, a little nervous, but I'm comforted by the fact that I have Richard Dyer as my co-pilot as we help you learn to navigate living your best life from your values. So I'm going to start off by introducing Richard, and then I'll say a little bit about myself. But Richard, thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me. So I'm going to read just so I don't mess up, because he's very impressive. I don't want to mess anything up. So Richard Dyer is the president and general manager of WUSA 9, the Tegna-owned CBS affiliate television station in Washington, D.C. He assumed his role in January of 2017, and he was actually, by doing that, returning to what is his original hometown. So in August 2020, this very month, Richard was promoted to Senior Vice President of Tegna, the parent company for WUSA 9. And he now has oversight of 2 additional television stations in Greensboro, North Carolina, and in Columbia, South Carolina. Previously, Richard was the president and general manager for WLWT-TV at a Hearst Television NBC affiliate in Cincinnati. He was there for 14 years. And prior to that, he was president and GM of Hearst ABC affiliate KETV in Omaha, Nebraska. So this broadcasting has been Richard's career, and he clearly loves it. As you know, he's a native of DC, and he has a master's degree in marketing from the University of Maryland and a bachelor's degree in economics and communications from Boston College. Richard is very, very committed to giving back to his community, and he has been recognized for that. He is a board member of the United Way of the National Capital Area, and he is very active in the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Washington and the Maryland, D.C., Delaware Broadcasters Association. Richard and his lovely wife, Yvonne, live in Bowie, Maryland, and they have 2 adult children, one of whom I've had the pleasure of meeting. So Richard, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you, Milka. It is a great pleasure to be here, especially as the last chapter of a series of Your Voice Matters. Those are words that mean quite a bit in 2020, probably more so in 2020 than they would have a year ago in 2019.
Absolutely. So our intention today is to talk a little bit about living your life from your values and what the impact is, both personally and professionally. And also, Richard, who is very brave, has agreed to allow me to do a little mini coaching session so that you can actually see what coaching looks like live. And he's going to have to get a little vulnerable, but he can handle it. So you're going to actually see what an exchange could look like. And it's, of course, all about values. But first of all, I wanted to start off by telling you just a tiny bit about myself. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. You can look at my website, and there's way more information than anyone could ever want to know about me and what I do. But I am an executive coach, and increasingly I'm doing more and more work with corporate clients around organizational design and development, which is about building culture and helping organizations live powerfully through their values, walking their talk as an organization, and also designing things like talent management and succession planning processes and initiatives. So I'm very blessed. I madly love the work that I do. I can't imagine doing anything else because I get to work with people like Richard. So that's a little bit about me. So now let's talk about you. I want each of you that is tuned in to really think about what values mean. And I'm going to give you sort of my working definition of it as I work with my clients, because in every single coaching engagement I have, in session 2, we are going to dig deeply into values as setting the foundation for the rest of the engagement, usually 6 months. So values are principles, standards, characteristics, or qualities that you, and they're unique to you, consider desirable. And when you are exhibiting those qualities, you are enhancing and living your best life. Values provide the foundation on which the things that we consider important decisions to make, important things to take on, that's the foundation we build them on. And to the extent that you're living in alignment with your values that you have declared are yours and represent the essence of who you are, then the happier, the more satisfied you are. And the more effective you are at reaching your goals. And Richard will provide an excellent example of that. So that gets us all on the same page about what are values. So one of the things that I love to brag about is that Richard is a unicorn. And what I mean by that is he is a rare leader. He has so embraced this notion of values and really being tooled up to be the best possible leader that, number one, he is actually a coach. He enrolled in the same program, and I've got that up on the side screen for those of you who are interested. He enrolled in the program at the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching and has recently completed that, which is where I was trained. He has brought coaching into his organization for his leaders and one of his teams I'm working with. And he is looking to find all kinds of ways to leverage his coaching skills. So that's unusual because now I'm going to be live coaching a coach, which is definitely a challenge. So Richard, are you ready? Are you ready to answer some questions?
Absolutely.
All right, so here we go. Tell me a little bit about why you have invested so much in coaching in terms of your own personal development and training and growth for your leaders and your people.
Well, as John Maxwell said, everything rises and falls on leadership. So that's the first thing I know. The second thing I know is that coaching helps elevate leadership. And then the third thing is that when we're talking about coaching, we are not only learning a toolkit of things that we should do better, things to do better, but it also opens up what we can become. And that's the powerful part about coaching that goes far beyond the training and the technical skills that you learn. It becomes a way of life and not just a set of tools.
Okay, awesome. So one of the things that I'm curious about is you brought values-based leadership to your organization a little over a year ago. Tell us why that was so important to you and how that journey's been.
Well, for those who are leaders, we have different assignments. So we have assignments that are taking something good and making it great. We have assignments that are maintaining something that's great. Generally, as leaders, a lot of times people don't want those transformations, which is something that's underperforming with a lot of issues, and it's a full transformation. When I returned to my hometown in the station that I've worked at, not one, not two, not three, but the fourth time, it was a transformation. So that transformation meant that I had to come in and add not only taking 15 and a half years or 16 years of leadership experience, but we were in the middle of a big transformation. And in that transformation, we did a lot of good work in the first couple of years. We built a brand, we established a culture. But in 2019, last year, we spent what I call the most impactful 90 minutes of the year in crafting and clearly identifying our 5 core values. And it has been a phenomenal change that has helped us be really clear about how our walk equals our talk.
So do you mind sharing what those 5 are, those 5 organizational values?
Yeah, absolutely. So number 1 is respect. Number 2 is honesty. And number 3 ties into the title of this series, where as a media company, our 3rd value is diversity of voices matters. The 4th is a standard, best in class. And the 5th is a personal call, and it's aspirational for all of us. It's confident, but humble.
Thank you for sharing that. So talk to me a little bit about what your view is around how accessible executive coaching is to Black professionals, and why that would be something that organizations might want to look at.
I literally just got off a conference call in my new role as part of the operating group for the entire company. We just literally did what we call as organizational vitality, but it was a look down at all the jobs that matter in our company. So companies now, probably a year ago in 2019, diversity, if I were looking at it in terms of how important it was in red, yellow, or green, there are very few companies that felt like they were probably green and doing a great job with diversities and having that pipeline filled for the executive level jobs. It maybe was a yellow, because most companies admit that they were falling short, and they were kind of working on it. With the events that have happened in 2020, that level of intensity and scrutiny on diversity in our executive ranks has gone from yellow to red. There's a level of intensity now around each company's direct responsibility, not only to have the jobs that matter be filled with a diverse group of folks that reflects the communities that we serve, but also that our pipelines are filled that way. We have to deal with that first. And then we get into the development part, which is how do we maximize the potential of those already in our organizations? That's where the power of coaching begins to come in, because it's a customized, long-term process where people learn how to be better leaders across every front, regardless of what their discipline is. That's where the power of coaching can come in. But you have to first have the executives in the positions of leadership and influence to where coaching can now play and have a multi-layered impact on the organization.
Thank you. And Richard is someone who certainly walks his talk on that belief. So now you know a little bit about Richard, you know a little bit about what I do, and I now want to get into the little mini coaching session. And I want to bring all of you participants along by talking a little bit about what it is that I hope you get out of this mini coaching exercise. So Richard and I both trained at IPAC, as we call it, and one of the most powerful principles that I walked away from that training was that your thoughts generate and create your emotions, your feelings. Your feelings impact your behavior and your actions. And your actions get to your results. So your thoughts get to your results. And one of the most powerful tools for mastering your thinking is to be clear about what your values are, what you believe in, how you want to walk the world against what standards. And when you find yourself, as I often do, sliding below where I want to be and walking my talk on my values, and I reassess them periodically, I then have exactly the things I need to do in order to get to be the best version of myself. So that is the background. And I hope you all walk away understanding what role that plays as I take Richard through some coaching questions and how you can use it to become better, like immediately set some very specific concrete things. Because really, at the end of the day, it's about what are my dreams? How can I use my values to find the best road to get there? And then how do I stay continuously aware so that I am recalibrating, so that I stay in action to get to my dreams and to live my life the way I say I want to in terms of my values. So now, Richard, you're on the hot seat. We're coaching. The audience knows what it is we're up to. And what we hope is that you can coach yourself. You can identify as participants, as audience, your own values. And if you need help doing that, give me a quick call or send me an email. I'll send you a couple of little things that would help you. You don't have to sign up for the coaching. You can I'll send you some little bits and bytes. But let's go ahead and show them how we do it, Richard. So talk to me, Richard, about 2 of your values. And I want you to pick one where you feel you are really proud of how you walk your talk. And then I want you to pick one where there's work to be done there. And it's at any given moment in time. These go up and down like the stock market, but right now you're feeling, it could be better. And I had a lot of fun creating the scale that every single client who is asked to pick 10 values, I had fun creating the scale of where are you in walking your talk. So I'm going to read that to you so that when Richard throws out a number, you know what it means. So in a particular value, how are you walking your talk? 1 means not even close. I aspire to live into this value because it's really important to me, but I haven't gotten to it yet. 2 is I'm just beginning on this value. 3 is I could do better. 4 means I'm working on it. Really, I am. And you really are. 5 is I'm kind of average on this. 6 is all things considered, I do pretty well. Working hard on doing better. 7 is I'm solid, better than most on this one. The next one, which is 8, is I am quite proud of how I walk my value on this one. 9 is few do it better. And 10 is if you ask the big coach up there to look in the Values Hall of Fame for my name, it's the first name. Like in my pictures there. Like I am, if I'm breathing, I'm living this value. So that is the rating scale. So Richard, tell me about the one you're proudest of and the one you're still really working on because right now you need to be.
Well, as you know, I have an acronym for my values. At least 6 of those core values are contained in the word growth. That's not only a value, but inside of the word growth, there are 6 core values for me. The G stands for gratitude. The R stands for relationship. The O stands for ownership. The W stands for work. The T stands for teach. And the H stands for really 2 things, humility and humor. So the first one that I feel like I'm on track with is the first letter in the word growth, and that is G, and that's gratitude. I feel that I'm probably a 6 or 7 on gratitude, where I'm really solid and consistent with gratitude. But that would be the one I would say that I'm doing pretty well on.
So tell us how you bring that into your day-to-day and why you are so comfortable rating yourself a what? I didn't hear the number again.
I think I'm going to go in between at a 6.5, a 6.5.
So you're at a 6.5, but what are you doing day-to-day that has you feel that you can comfortably say that you are doing 6 is that you do pretty well and you're solid. So you're in between there. What makes you say that? What are you doing day to day?
Like anything, you can connect it to your habits and your rituals on a daily basis. Gratitude is a part of my morning routine. I try my best to win the mornings, and prayer, meditation, and gratitude are a part of my daily routine. Like many in the audience, I'm sure we've gone through gratitude journals and things like that. I include in my journaling 3 things I'm grateful for every single day, 7 days a week. And I know it's a constant way that I just get an opportunity to set my spirit for the day in a place where I'm open to more opportunity because I'm appreciative of what I have, big, small, or medium. I do that on a daily basis. So I know just by that daily habit and ritual that I'm really working on it, and it's a high priority.
Now I'm going to get out of coaching mode to just highlight a few things about Richard, what Richard has just said for those of you joining us. So values are very personal. I mean, I give my clients a list of like over 100 to see if it resonates, and they get to pick. They can pick something off the list, whatever it is that they think are their core values. And some people are very hard in scoring themselves, right? So that's also highly personal, and that's okay. The first time around, you're establishing a baseline. So now back to you, Richard. So 6.5 is the one that you're feeling very good about because you day to day have a morning routine and a practice that incorporates gratitude. So I'm just curious, if you want to take this up to an 8 or a 9, like if you do it better, what would you be doing differently that you're not doing right now?
I believe that I would put that gratitude and have the loved ones closest to me know how much I appreciate them specifically.
Okay, so you would be intentional about ensuring that your loved ones really know how you appreciate them. So what one thing could you do between now and our next session next week that would make that real?
I could have my wife come on this call right now and blow me up. That would be
blow you up with love and demonstrating to you how grateful she is for you and you are for her. Is that what you're saying, or something else?
If I could have you specifically interview her at the end of next week, hopefully she will.
Okay.
Right. She would be able to identify something specific every day that was just a kindness that let her know that how appreciative I am after 31 years of marriage, that I appreciate all things small, medium, and large about our relationship and who she has been to me for, more than half my life. So that would be the litmus test for me.
So I think it is safe to say that I won't make you tell us in public exactly what you're going to do between now and next week. But Yvonne, I'm going to call you and find out what he did. Or you're going to come next week and you're going to tell me, yes, Milka, I nailed it and this is what I did, right? As I hold you accountable.
Yeah. You can ask me privately and I'll give you an honest answer.
We're going to, listen, I take care of my clients. So I'm not going to ask you in public to disclose anything. But you are committed to taking one action between now and next week to make sure Yvonne understands how much you appreciate her.
Yes. Something every day with intention.
Every single day. So there's 7 things that she has to look forward to that you're going to be.
Now I could double up. I could do 2 or 3 in one day.
Well, I like to always recommend, let's not go right. Achievable. Because you might do 13 instead of 14 and then just blow your deal there because you missed one. So let's do 7. And if you happen to do 13, well, then, hey.
No, 7.
So 1 a day. Got it. All right. So now let's talk about the value where you feel that you're not really where you want to be.
It's the other end of the word growth, and it is the H, and it stands for humility. And that I feel I'm probably in the 3 to 4 range on humility.
Okay. And say more about that. Say more about why 3 and 4 range. And just for our audience, 3 is I could do better. 4 is I'm working on it. Really, I am. So tell me more about why you're rating yourself this way on the value humility.
Well, one of the things that I have added to my clarity about through coaching is about my intention. And my intention is to be fully present with my loved ones and those that are depending on me with respectful calm and ease. I want to be there for them in a way that they know I'm giving them 100% of my intention in a non-judgmental way where I'm genuinely interested in what they're saying at that moment. And throughout my day, there are plenty of opportunities where I fall short on that.
So I want to understand, so see more about the link between humility and how you're showing up with respectful common ease. Help me really tie those two things together.
So starting with my job, one of the things that we do is we interact with people of all different levels, and folks are always having issues. Before getting this intention to be fully present in a non-judgmental way, you kind of listen with kind of giving people the short shrift. And one of the things that you do, and I'm guilty of it, is you start processing 2 or 3 sentences ahead, and you're always looking for, here's what I'm going to say as soon as they stop talking. I'm ready with my answer. And as a leader, a lot of times you get stuck in being like a doctor giving out prescriptions for people to heal the illness that they came to you with. And instead of just being present in the moment and listening with empathy and compassion, but then listening with enough deep listening that you can ask them empowering questions where you're not prescribing the answers, but that you are allowing them to explore solutions in a partnership, almost like a coaching partnership. So for me, we had, and it's personal and professional. So while I've got a lot of things going on in work and I feel pretty good about that, my relationship with my wife is one that she lets me know very clearly when I have overemphasized the things that are important to me and underemphasized the things that make her feel valued and special. So that is for real.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say, and it's interesting because we don't always, we think about listening skills and the value of listening skills, and certainly in coach training, that is a huge part of the training. Mm-hmm. I love to talk, and one of the things I put a little Post-it note up near my screen is, why am I talking? If I'm coaching, I need to be doing more listening than talking, right? But what I hear you saying is that when you are in your head 3 steps ahead of whoever you're listening to, there's a level of arrogance or knowing it all there. And so you are intentional about trying to counter that. Is that a fair way of describing this?
Yeah, very fair. I think, for example, yesterday, this is a real thing that happened. We had some changes in our company that led to us having to downsize a couple of people out of our organization. In that moment, when you're talking to an employee that just had a very high impact negative experience that you've initiated, and you are part of a team of people explaining this to somebody, you can't jump in and say, I know how you feel. You have to honor that person's response in the moment in a way that gives them respect, even though you're dealing with items that or what the severance is, how it's going to all play out. You have to resist the temptation that you have an answer for them in that moment. You don't. And while your heart may want to jump ahead and tell them everything's going to be okay, you don't have the power to do that. You have to be humble enough in that moment, as we did yesterday, to allow people to feel that pain and allow them to express it and just honor it and just let it be, because it's theirs to go through and not yours.
Yeah, well, I have to acknowledge you for being the kind of leader who can step away from the pull of the ego or the pull of the heart and really be with the other person and with whatever it is that they're experiencing it and in the moment. And unfortunately, as a leader in these times in particular, where people are being furloughed and having their pay cut, if they're lucky, they still get to work, but those are real high impact experiences. Having that kind of empathy and compassion and powerful listening skills is critical. So I acknowledge you for being so committed to that. So you've talked about growth, you've gratitude, you've talked about humility as your personal core values, and you have shared openly how you feel you're doing on that and how you could get better. Talk to me a little bit about what you might do as you continue to be challenged as a leader and as a man out and about in the world around this, getting humility to be a 5, a 6, a 7. What can you be doing in the next week that would have you walking closer in alignment with that value of humility?
It goes to the acronym you used, WAIT. Why am I talking? And one of the things that we can do to instantly make better connections with other people is to talk less and listen more. That's a very simple way to honor that person at a higher level, is to talk less and listen more, and do so in a way that's non-judgmental, and that you can reflect that you're really 100% focused on honoring whatever their issue is at the time with complete attention. And that was one of the things I was listening to a book, and they were talking about Bill Clinton as a politician. And they were talking about one of the things that he had as a skill was the ability to make you feel like you were the only one in the room. And there's something special about the connection that you make when somebody actually feels like they're the only one in the room. And I think it's decreasing your focus on self and increasing your focus on the other person and honoring their issue with 100% attention, and then following up with great questions, which is a coaching skill that's learned. One question at a time, empowering, open-ended questions that let the person know, hey, I'm interested enough for you to tell me more about it so that I can better understand how this issue is impacting you.
So you're saying that in the coming week, you are going to be very intentional about increasing your listening, lowering the inner chatter, and also asking empowering questions.
Yes, and one way to do that, and it's a specific technique, is making sure, again, this is a coaching technique, to center myself before meetings and conversations.
Yes.
Just to take 60 seconds to breathe and just recalibrate, it's like that old gas station self-service pump where you had to flip up the lever before you start pumping your own gas so that it cleared the previous sale. And what centering does is it allows you to take the Zoom call you just got off of, and you clear that out, and you refresh so that you start with a clean slate for whoever you're engaging with next. And that is a specific thing that I would commit to doing before meetings and discussions, is centering myself so that I'm prepared to be fully present for the other person.
So if you did those things consistently for the next 4 weeks, what it would be the trend line? Where would you think you'd be? What is your projected rating for how you're walking your talk on this humility factor?
That's 2 points.
That's 2 points. I give you. All right. So we're going to take it to 5, 6.
Yeah, I think that's 2 points, because that now becomes a habit and a commitment that becomes a standard. And once you have a standard for setting yourself up to be fully present for other people, now you can get into the quality of the listening and the quality of the questions that you can ask people and the quality of support that you can give them. But the first thing is to have the intention set so that you're fully present with them. And for me, centering would be a real specific commitment that I would make to prepare myself to be fully present with that other person and put the focus on them and not my own agenda.
So what percentage of the time would you say you've been doing that in the last 2 weeks versus your intention for the next 2 weeks?
Work in progress.
You got
Again,
to nail it down, get some measurable, some metrics. We can
I
measure.
believe that I'm probably right now, probably 45% of the time I'm doing it. I start out in the day with an intention. Hit the refresh button on my intention to be fully present, but the actual practice of it, I'm probably 45% of the way there. In a couple of weeks, maybe I'm up to 55.
Okay.
So that more than half the time, I'm really centering myself and I'm fully present for whomever I have to engage with. I think that would be, again, a 10-point improvement within 2 weeks.
So now I want to spend probably about 4 minutes doing the same thing. You've given us your personal core values that you live your life through. And then earlier on, you talked about bringing values to your organization, and you listed them. Talk about one value for your organization that you as a leader feel you could be doing as an entirety, not you specifically, but as an entirety better.
Well, the number one value that we continue to work on is Aretha Franklin's RESPECT. It really gets down to honoring and respecting everyone in our organization, regardless of what their level of contribution is or their level of job is, all the way down from me, all the way through the organization. It is just treating people the way you want to be treated. And we have a goal, which is an aspirational one, and it is to make WUSA 9 the best place you've ever worked. And when we look at what's important to people, especially now, is they want their voices and they want their contributions and who they uniquely are to be respected and embraced. And we have to make sure we continue to always keep that at the top of our values list. And that's something that we have to improve upon, especially during an uncertain time.
So can you give some concrete examples of, well, no, let's back up. Could you tell me, if you were rating yourself on our little special Milka scale, from 1 to 10, how would you rate your organization on walking its talk on respect today? Again, it's like the stock market. It goes up and down, and certainly COVID-19 and the economic challenges and the social unrest, I'm calling the great reckoning with race, are impacting everything. So I'm sure it's the same. But how would you rate it today organizationally? Where are you with that value?
I would say that we're really working on it. And yesterday was another example where we had these tough changes that we were going to announce with a couple of folks in our organization as part of a bigger change. And we normally have that being done by the department head and our HR business partner. And there was a question on whether I should have, as general manager, join that call. And it was the value of respect that ultimately tipped the hand that I had to be there. We had people who had been contributing to our organization. We are now implementing a change that adversely affects them. And I needed to be there in that toughest moment to give them the most respect possible. So I would say that we're aware of it. We're working on it. But what we also have learned is that there's generally a gap between the self-score and the score your team gives you. And we have just, in a year with a lot of disruption, have tried to be as transparent and respectful in communicating to people what's really going on inside the organization on a consistent basis. We have 2 team calls a day. So I would say a 5 to a 6, and we have work to do on that.
Okay, so what are some things that you, and because it's organizational values, you and your leadership team could do in the next 2 to 3 weeks, the next 3 to 4 weeks, specific concrete things that you feel will elevate that trend line and move it towards a 6, a 7, a 7, or 8, let's go 7 or 8. What specific 1 or 2 things could you be doing that would make a difference?
There are two specific things. Number one, we have been talking about setting up a anonymous email where people can give us feedback on how we're doing, what issues they have. And we have consistent communication with our team, but we have to use every tool possible for those who may not be comfortable raising their hands in a Zoom call or something like that. So that's one thing. And we've been talking about that, and I think we're ready to launch that. The other is to specifically have a contact list for each of our leaders to reach out to people and check in with them in a non-agenda reach out. How are you doing? How are you doing with your kids going back to school? Almost just a genuine care check to make sure that every member of our team feels like they have somebody personally invested in their well-being. And while we've done some of that, we need to make sure that we're checking off and having contact with every person on our team. And that's a specific thing that we could do as a leadership team.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to really acknowledge and thank you for being willing to publicly broadcast not just your values, but areas that you're feeling that you're not really where you want to be. And then publicly declaring some of the things that you're going to be committing to. It's one thing to do it in private when we're having a coaching session, but to put that out there so that others can see, there's this conceptual idea of, walking my talk and living my values versus how do you really action against week to week, really doing the work of walking your talk. So thank you for being so vulnerable. I know that it's not easy. I have no way to thank you for doing that. I'm going to take a couple of minutes and just kind of sum it up for the audience in terms of how they can use this tool. And then we're going to open it up for questions. So remember, you have these dreams, you have these aspirations, things you're really wanting to accomplish as an individual or an organization. And actually, I think of organizations as living organisms, right? It's a living entity. And in my website, I start off by saying that I don't distinguish. I don't believe people can check their personal selves at the door when they enter the office or the Zoom room, in this instance, the way we're living now, or vice versa. We are one whole, complete entity, and things at home will impact how we show up at work, how we feel, and vice versa. So what I encourage everyone who's listening to do is to write down 5 values that most matter to you. And if you've never done this exercise, I think it's critical that you really practice doing it. And if you email me, I will send you some things to get you started. And then rate yourself on how you're walking your talk. And the rating is the magic, because you have your dreams and you have your values, but you can't, unless you have awareness and are in action, then it's just a whole bunch of great thinking, right? It's not going to shift your living. It's not going to change your life. So how are you walking your talk from 1 to 10? Score yourself. And then what specific things can you do in each area? Because you'll discover that when you are most satisfied in any area of your life, it's because you're living in alignment with your values. When you are least satisfied, frustrated, it's because you're out of alignment. I did my values in November. They were really wonderful. I did my values in May, and all of a sudden they'd fallen like 3, 4, 5 points. And I had to really be clear about what did I need to do to get back on track. So this is true for all of us. So hopefully that has been helpful. Richard, any parting thoughts, anything you want to say about coaching in general or anything at all?
Well, I think values have become, it's almost like that voice on your GPS that lets you know that you're on or off track towards your destination. We all have a voice inside of our head, and when we kind of listen to decisions that we have to make, or we're moving in a certain direction, there's a voice. If you're really tuned into your values, there's a voice that says, recalculating, off track, make a left turn.
That's perfect.
Yeah. I mean, the other part about values is, to your point, I just want to emphasize, we're only one person. So while I have many more opportunities to be patted on the back professionally, I always know that I have ground to make up as a husband and as a father. So the thing about coaching is the power of how it impacts you professionally and personally, and it holds you accountable to be in alignment on both. Even though, as you said, you could be a 7 1 week and you could be a 3 or 4 3 months from now. So it's a constant evolution, and we're all a constant work in progress.
Yep. It's like my constant working on losing, 15 pounds. It's up and down, up and down. I've probably lost 100 pounds when I add up the ups and the downs, right? It's a never-ending journey. But thank you so much. So Milka, I would love it if you would come and play with us to wrap this up. Can't hear you.
Oops. Okay, so this has been amazing. I have really enjoyed watching the two of you. I love the energy is amazing. The comments have said that the people who are commenting in the comment section are also enjoying it. They've loved it and have some great comments they've made. So as some of you are thinking about your questions, I have a ton of questions. I always have a lot of questions that I have for both of you and also for you, Richard. So I'm an organizational consultant and a coach. I work with leaders often. In my consulting work as an OD and org design consultant, I have conversations with clients where, there's always this fear of showing themselves, of the level of vulnerability it requires. As we all know, as we're all coaches, we've gone through this journey that it takes to really often bring out the best in your people. So my first question for you, Richard, and then after that I have one for both of you together, is what advice would you give to leaders about being in greater alignment with their values and also having the ability to bring their full self to work?
A lot of it is addition by subtraction. There are a lot of leadership models that have people with these perceptions of what leadership is that need to be unlearned. And what we just recently had is one of our leaders was having issues with their team, and they had this guardrail around, I don't necessarily, I misstep with the team, but it's kind of their fault. I don't really think I should take full responsibility for it. But the reality is, if you treat people, if you prioritize the relationships that you have with your team, you recognize that relationships are built on trust. And if relationships that matter to you most are built on trust, you have to do that in the workplace. So you have to be vulnerable. You have to be honest. When you make a mistake, you have to own it. So in this case, we actually had him, after a lot of conversation, really have a apology session with his team. He was very uncomfortable about it because that did not fit his leadership profile. And it was game-changing for him. It was game-changing for him. And it changed the dynamic he had with his team.
And did you notice a perception in his behavior for himself and his own behavior with his team? Did he come to a realization of what some of his roadblocks might have been in the past?
Well, the important thing about it is relationships are always a process. Yeah. You don't spike the ball and drop the mic after the apology. That actually only begins to open up a new pathway. It's like a new road under construction now. You've opened up a new way to relate to and draw closer and more engaged with your team. It's not the end of the road. It's actually the beginning of a new journey. So time will tell. The sincerity of the apology is only reinforced by the behavior over time. And that is part of the ongoing process. So not sure how sustainable the leadership change will be from that moment, but we're hopeful.
That's amazing. Thank you. And I have a question for the two of you that dovetails off of a question that Deborah Small just asked. Deborah's question is, Richard, what made you decide to embark on this journey? And I would also like to add to that, and also, what's it like being a coach, being coached? And also, I'd like to hear Milka's perspective as the coach, coaching coaching who knows coaching. I know can.
Well, just to answer the how did I get to this point? Again, in January 2017, we started the transformation of WUSA 9 here in Washington, D.C., a place that I love in a city that I love, in my hometown. About 2 years, at the end of year 2 of that process, even after being a general manager for 15 and a half years before that, I was running out of tools. I needed to become a better leader, a stronger leader with better methodology and more skills to help people move from problem to solution without me having to be a doctor prescribing solutions.
Right.
I was searching for an answer. I needed to have more in my toolkit. And I started researching what are the options so that I can get better and grow. And coaching turned out to be the answer. But in that, as that answer came in, divine intervention also played a role, because in late December of 2018, as I came up with coaching as a thing I needed to become a better leader, I met a woman by total divine intervention who was at a conference I was speaking at. And I asked her, we got to know each other, and she talked about this transformational experience she had when she was going through a personal and professional valley, and how coaching lifted her out of that valley experience, and it was life-changing for her. I was like, wow, who was your coach that helped that come about? And she said, Milka. And I said, give me her number so I can talk to her. That divine intervention from somebody that I did not know turned into me being introduced to Milka, her introducing me to the program that she trained in. I immediately enrolled in that based on that relationship, and it's just blossomed from there. And the person that gave her the great recommendation 2 months later ended up leaving her place in Florida and joining our team in Washington. So
Wow.
it all has worked together. As the Bible said, all things have worked together for good. So
That's amazing.
I'm really grateful for that divine intervention and serendipity.
I love. And what about you, Milka? I love that story. Milka, what's it like for you?
I'm going to give a shout out to Caridad Hernandez, who is the person he's referencing. And I started working with her in August 2017. And she introduced, she had gone to speak at an event and talked about her transformation and coaching, and had that energy leadership book that is the Bible for IPEC coaches. And so, you know, the rest is history. But in terms of every good coach is always getting coached.
Yeah.
So I have, and I'll give a shout out, because if they're not on, they'll eventually hear this. I have this amazing, amazing couple, and they're both coaches, and they're like the loves of my life. They're married, Judy Vogel and David Glazier. And when I'm really stuck, they're the ones who I call. You know, David has a very spiritual, mindfulness, meditative, you know, for 40 years, that's been the foundation of his coaching practice. And Judy's an expert in organizational design and development and talent, leadership and development. And I have been blessed to be able to access them. Also, it turns out that most of my best friends are coaches. So every coach should always be getting coached. So how is it to be coached when you're a coach? It's like, it's lifeblood. It makes you better. So that, I don't know if that was the question, but
yes. Yes, you've answered. Well, I have another question, and others, please feel free to write your questions. We'll ask them, but I always have questions, folks. So I have another question for you, Richard. Would you recommend coaching to leaders before they bring it into their organization? And that could be coaching as in them getting coached, or going the extra mile, which you did, and actually going through a coaching certification program. Would you recommend that? And do you find that for yourself, because you've been coached, when you're working with people who haven't gone through coaching, whether it's the experience or a program, how are you able to make that connection for them so that they can learn with you and grow?
Well, we've done it both ways. Because I experienced the coach training directly, it influenced how I was able to engage and lead the people who are part of our team. As a result of that, when we got to road obstacles where we needed somebody to grow, I knew coaching was a resource that worked. So when we had an opportunity to bring Milka into our organization, she provided a solution that I was very familiar with. So we took somebody that was, again, in red, yellow, green. We know that when employees are yellow, the next change of the light is either going to be green or it's going to be red. Knowing the power of coaching then allowed me to identify that as the go-to next step for that person's development, as opposed to sending them to a webinar or doing some other kind of thing. And what the power of coaching does is it gets behind the curtain of a lot of things that are impacting their performance at work. So because I took the coaching directly, I knew how impactful it was, and thus I could make the recommendation to people to engage in the coaching, even though they hadn't experienced. So the answer to your question is yes and yes.
Okay. And from from my experience, I've noticed over the years, there's been a gradual shift where in the past, I've been in coaching for over 12 years now. In the past, coaching was often, unfortunately, seen as remedial. And people, if you're getting a coach, it meant you were in trouble. and that shift has been taking place more now to like, if you're good and you want to get to great, you want to get to amazing, consider coaching to get to that next level. What suggestions would you give to, two parts to this question. First, to all the coaches who are here in this community, because this is a group where we bring in a lot of coaches, what suggestions would you have for them when they are talking to organizations or leaders about ways to pitch coaching as a solution? As usually it's sometimes seen as the last solution, the final solution. Rarely is it often the first. And then the second question is more for those who either are maybe considering coaching in the future. What for you, if you could think of the single most important thing coaching has done for you in your professional journey, what would it be? 2 parts.
It's allowed me to better engage and help other people succeed. Without question, I can now help members of our team go from problem to solution faster than I could before I learned about coaching. Then the second part of the question is coaching enhances leadership. So you invest right now, because there's such a heightened focus on how do our organizations reflect the communities that we serve, and we need to have representation. There's a heightened level of focus on development of talent. Coaching is the perfect way to get beyond surface leadership training and getting to a long-term development where you have an investment with a high return. You have an investment with a high return that will give you a person that not only is functionally good at their job because they've already got the skills, but now the influence that they can have has elevated beyond just teaching other people how to do their jobs better. It's teaching them how to be better equipped so that they can be the best versions of themselves.
That's great. Thank you both. This has been amazing. We've now reached the top of the hour, and I would like any final words, maybe 15 to 30 seconds from each one of you, and then we will close out. Milka, could you go first?
Well, again, thanking Richard for putting himself in the hot seat and being vulnerable. That is amazing. I'm very grateful. And also, I would encourage all of you to stay tuned to this amazing group. Milka Millions is a leader that can make stuff happen. Like, she declares it and people just follow, and next thing you know, you blink and it's done. So Milka, I want to thank Milka, from one Milka to another. Thank you for the leadership you have done in bringing us together and putting out this summer series. And I can't wait to see what other trouble you're going to get us all into next. And I encourage anyone out there who has not joined the LinkedIn group for CARE, Coaches Against Racism and Exclusion, to do so, because Milka's it's gonna be dynamic, I'm sure.
Thank you so much, Milka. We got one final question. I'm going to throw it at you, Richard, from Lizandra. This is perhaps your final say. What do you recommend individual contributors do in their organizations to promote the utilization of coaching and development of learning mindset, to that learning coaching approach model?
You have to teach people. And probably the first thing to do is to have opportunities for folks to hear about the importance of continual development and skill growth. And you have to have an organization that has a growth mindset, which is the vulnerability at the top. As a leader, I'm still growing, I'm still learning, I'm still making mistakes, but I'm learning from them. And then from there, it trickles down.
Awesome. Thank you both. So we are now going to close it out. Thank you both, Milka and Richard, for joining us. And I would just like to thank everyone for participating in the speaker series. This is the last session, but there is more coming. So please, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, as well as like this session. This was an amazing session. It was everything I was hoping it would be. And then I would also like to ask you to share it with others. We will be back in a few weeks with a whole new, with more content and more speakers that we'll be bringing on. So again, thank you very much. This has been our pleasure to discuss with you the importance of Your Voice Matters. And have a wonderful day and a wonderful week. Thank you, everyone.